The cold water hit my face like a slap. It ran into my eyes, down my nose, and into my mouth. I gasped and coughed. The whole dining room went quiet for 1 second, then my two sons laughed like it was a joke. Not a small laugh, a loud, careless laugh. All I had said was, "Please, can I have a little more food?" That was it. I was their father. I was the man who worked until his hands were hard and tired. I was the one who paid school fees, hospital bills, and rent. I was the one who stayed awake when they were sick. I was the one who prayed over them when they slept. And now I stood there, dripping wet, while my own sons laughed at me. I wiped my face slowly with the back of my hand. My heart felt tight, like someone had tied a rope around it. I did not shout. I did not hit the table. I did not beg them to stop. Instead, I looked at them calmly and said, "It's okay." They laughed even more. But inside me something broke, not in a loud way, in a quiet way. Because in that moment, I made a decision. A decision so quiet that no one in that room heard it. 3 days later, I would sit in a bank, sign 2 forms, transfer every kobo from both of their accounts, and buy a one-way ticket out of the country. And they would not know until it was too late. But before I tell you how I did that, you need to know how we got here. Because water on my face was not the first time they disrespected me. It was just the last straw. So listen closely, because this story has a lesson for every parent and every child. If you are watching this, I want you to answer one question in your mind. What would you do if the people you loved the most started treating you like you meant nothing? Now let me take you back to the beginning. My name is Daniel Stone. I am not a perfect man, but I am a hardworking father. For many years, my life was simple. Work, home, family. That was all I needed. I had 2 sons. The first one was Caleb, the older one. He was smart, quick with words, and always wanted to be the best. The second was Ethan. Ethan was softer when he was small, but as he grew, he started copying his brother. Their mother, my wife, was called Grace. She was the calm one in the house. When I was angry, she cooled me down. When the boys were rude, she corrected them. When money was tight, she encouraged me. Grace kept our home balanced. Then life changed. It happened on a normal day. I remember the date clearly because it was the day our family started turning into something I did not recognize. Grace went to the market to buy food. She smiled before she left and said, "I will make your favorite soup tonight." That night she did not come back. We later heard there was an accident on the road. A bus had hit a small car. People rushed to the scene. Someone called me and said there was a woman with Grace's name in her bag. When I reached the hospital, a doctor took me aside and spoke slowly, like he was afraid my heart would stop. Grace was gone. I cannot explain that pain in big words. It felt like my chest was empty, like the air had left my body. At the funeral, the boys cried. Caleb held my hand for the first time in a long time. Ethan leaned on my shoulder. I thought, we will be closer now. We will be a team. For some months we were. I cooked, I cleaned. I tried to be both father and mother. I packed their lunches, helped with homework, and worked longer hours to cover what Grace used to do. At first, people praised me. Daniel is strong. Daniel is trying. Daniel is a good father. But praise does not fill a house with warmth. Only love does. And slowly, something changed in my sons. It started small. One evening after I came home late from work, I saw dirty plates in the sink. The house smelled bad. Food had been left out. I was tired, but I spoke gently. "Boys, please clean up after yourselves," I said. Caleb rolled his eyes. "You act like a cleaner," he said. That word hit me. Act like a cleaner. I wanted to correct him sharply, but I remembered Grace's voice. Calm, patient. So I said, "No, Caleb, I'm your father, and this is our home. We all must take care of it." Ethan laughed and said, "Father of the Year." They both walked away. That night I sat on my bed and stared at the wall. I told myself they were grieving. I told myself they were confused. I told myself it would pass. But it did not pass. Another day I gave them money for school transport. Later, their teacher called me. "Mr. Stone, your sons have not been coming to the extra classes," the teacher said. "They are leaving early." When I asked them at home, Caleb did not even try to lie. "We went out with friends," he said. I asked, "With the school transport money?" Caleb shrugged. "So what?" "So what?" I repeated. Ethan leaned on the doorway and said, "Dad, relax. You worry too much." I told them they would lose weekend privileges. No outing, no games, no friends visiting. They laughed. Caleb said, "You can't control us forever." That was a low moment for me. Not loud, just sad. I missed Grace more than ever. If she were here, she would not let this happen. She would speak one sentence and the whole room would obey. Not because she was scary, but because she was respected. And respect was something my sons were slowly removing from me, piece by piece. Then came the money issue. After Grace died, I did something important. I opened 2 savings accounts in my sons' names. It was my way of protecting their future. I wanted them to have money for university, for life, for emergencies. Every month, no matter how hard things were, I put money into those accounts. Sometimes I skipped buying new clothes for myself so I could deposit more. Sometimes I worked extra shifts. I did it quietly. I did not boast. I did not tell friends. I did not even tell my sons how much was inside. All they knew was this: Dad is saving for us. As they got older, those accounts became a proud thing for them. Not because they respected the sacrifice, but because they felt entitled. "Don't worry," Caleb would say, "we have money saved." Sometimes he said it like I did not matter, like the money came from the sky. I noticed something else too. Caleb started speaking to me like I was his worker. "Dad, I need new shoes," he would say, not "please," not "can I," just "I need." Ethan would add, "And I need a new phone, this one is old." When I said I could not buy everything at once, they would act like I had insulted them. One day Caleb said, "Other parents are better than you." That day I stood in the kitchen holding a pot, frozen. I wanted to scream, "Do you know what I've done for you?" But I did not. I just said, "Okay." That word again. Okay. Because I was trying to keep peace. I thought peace would keep us together. But peace without respect is not peace. It is just silence. Then came the day of the dinner. It was a Friday. I had worked all day. My back hurt. My stomach was empty. I had not eaten since morning because I was saving money and also because work was busy. On my way home, I bought a small bag of rice and a little chicken. Not much, but enough for us. At home I cooked. I stirred the pot slowly. The smell filled the house. For a moment it felt like old times. We sat down to eat. Caleb and Ethan came to the table, talking and laughing about something on their phones. They did not say thank you. They did not ask how my day went. They just sat and started eating. I served them first, like Grace used to do. I put a little on my own plate and sat down. It was not enough. I was very hungry. I looked into the pot and saw there was still some left. Not a lot, just a small extra. So I asked gently, "Please, can I have a little more food?" Caleb looked at Ethan, and Ethan looked at Caleb. They started smiling. Not a happy smile. A mean smile. Ethan stood up, walked to the table side, picked up a cup of water and said, "You want extra?" I did not even understand what he meant until he threw it. The water flew in the air and hit my face. My head snapped back, coldness, shock, silence. Then laughter. And that is where the story started. But what happened right after that was even worse. Because as I sat there dripping, Caleb pushed his chair back, stood up slowly, and said something that made my stomach twist harder than hunger ever could. He leaned close and spoke in a quiet voice that only I could hear. And the moment he said it, I realized this was not just disrespect. This was hatred. And it was about to get dangerous. Caleb's words stayed in my head like a bad song I could not stop hearing. He leaned close to me, his breath warm, his voice low, and he said, "You are nothing without us." Then he straightened up, laughed, and walked away like he had just won something. Ethan followed him, still laughing, still proud. I stayed at the table. Water dripped from my chin onto my plate. My food was cold now. My hands were shaking, but not because of the water. Because of the truth hidden inside those words. Nothing without us. I cleaned my face slowly with a cloth. I did not chase them. I did not shout their names. I did not ask why. I just sat there. That night I did not sleep. I lay on my bed staring at the ceiling. Every sound in the house felt loud. A door closing, a laugh from their room, music playing softly. I thought about Grace. If she were alive, would they dare speak to me like that? Would they throw water in my father's face if I were her? No. And that thought hurt more than anything else. In the morning I woke up early. I made breakfast like usual. Eggs, bread, tea. I set the table. They came out of their rooms like nothing had happened. "Morning," Ethan said, not looking at me. Caleb took his plate and sat down. "Is there sugar for the tea?" I nodded and passed it to him. Inside me, something strange was happening. I felt calm. Not a happy calm, not a peaceful calm. A cold calm. The kind you feel when you stop hopping. That day I went to work as usual. I did my job. I smiled at people. I answered questions. No one could tell that my heart felt heavy like a stone. At lunch I sat alone and thought. I thought about all the times I had kept quiet. All the times I said okay instead of stop. All the times I chose peace instead of respect. And I asked myself one question. If I keep living like this, what will happen? The answer scared me. They would grow older, stronger, meaner. They would use me. And when I had nothing left to give, they would throw me away. That night when I got home, Caleb was in the living room watching TV. Ethan was on his phone. I said, "We need to talk." Caleb did not look at me. "About what?" "About respect," I said. Ethan laughed. "Here we go again." I took a deep breath. "I am your father. You cannot treat me like that. What happened yesterday was wrong." Caleb finally looked at me. His eyes were cold. "You asked for extra food," he said. "You embarrassed yourself." "Embarrassed myself." I said I was hungry. "So," Ethan said, "manage it." That word again. Manage it. I felt my chest tighten. "Do you know how hard I work for this family?" Caleb stood up slowly. He walked toward me, stopping just a little too close. "You work because you have to," he said. "Don't act like a hero." Something inside me snapped, but not in a loud way. I said, "I am done talking." Caleb smirked. "Good." That night, I went to my room and locked the door. I sat on my bed and cried for the first time since Grace's funeral. Not loud cries, quiet ones. Tears for the man I used to be. Tears for the boys I thought I raised. The next few days were strange. I stopped correcting them. When they left plates in the sink, I washed them myself. When they spent money carelessly, I said nothing. When they spoke rudely, I nodded. They noticed. Ethan said one evening, "Dad is finally learning." Caleb laughed. "He knows his place now." They thought my silence meant weakness. They were wrong. Because silence can also mean planning. One afternoon, while they were out with friends, I opened the small folder I kept under my bed. Inside were documents, bank papers, account numbers. Their savings accounts. The ones I opened years ago. The ones I paid into with tired hands and long nights. The ones they believed were theirs. I stared at the papers for a long time. My hands shook again, but this time for a different reason. I was not angry. I was clear. I said out loud, I did this. I remembered skipping meals. Remembered walking home instead of taking transport. Remembered wearing the same shoes for years. All for them. And now they had thrown water in my face. That night I made a decision. Not a loud one. A quiet one. The next morning I went to the bank. The building was cool and clean. People stood in lines. Pens scratched paper. A guard nodded at me. I felt like my heart would jump out of my chest. At the counter, a young woman smiled and said, "How can I help you, sir?" I slid the papers forward. "I need to make some transfers," I said. She looked at the documents. "These accounts are in your son's names." "I know," I said. "I am the guardian." She nodded and typed on her computer. As she worked, memories flooded my mind. Caleb's first day of school. Ethan learning to ride a bike. Grace smiling in the kitchen. My chest hurt. "Are you sure?" the woman asked gently. I looked at the screen. The numbers stared back at me. Years of sacrifice. "Yes," I said, "I am sure." She asked me to sign. I picked up the pen. My hand paused. For 1 second, doubt tried to enter my heart. Then I remembered cold water on my face. I signed. One by one, the amounts moved. From their accounts to mine. When it was done, the woman printed a receipt and handed it to me. "All completed," she said. I folded the paper and put it in my pocket. Outside the bank, the sun felt brighter. I stood there for a long time. I did not feel happy. I did not feel proud. I felt free. That evening, I went home like nothing had changed. Caleb and Ethan were in a good mood. They joked, they laughed, they talked about future plans. "Our money will help," Caleb said. "We're set." I watched them quietly. Later that night, I packed a small bag. Clothes, passport, some cash. I hid it under my bed. Then I sat on the edge of the mattress and waited. Because the real test had not come yet. The moment that would change everything was still ahead. And it would come sooner than I expected. The very next morning, the bank sent an alert. And the sound of a phone notification would soon turn this house upside down forever. The sound came early in the morning. Ping. Then another. Ping. I was in the kitchen making tea when I heard Ethan shout from his room. "Dad." His voice was sharp, not playful, not lazy. Panicked. Caleb's door flew open. I heard fast footsteps. Phones were buzzing again and again like angry insects. I did not rush. I stirred my tea slowly and took a small sip. "Dad," Caleb shouted this time, "come here." I walked to the hallway calmly. My heart was beating fast, but my face was steady. Caleb stood there staring at his phone. His eyes were wide. His mouth was open. Ethan looked pale. His hands were shaking. "What is this?" Ethan asked. "My account says 0. Caleb turned his phone toward me. "Mine too. Dad, what did you do?" I looked at the screen for a second, then looked back at them. "I moved the money," I said. The house went silent. "Moved the money?" Caleb laughed once, a short, sharp laugh. "You're joking." "I am not," I said. Ethan stepped back like I had pushed him. "You stole our money." I shook my head. "No, I moved my money." Caleb's face turned red. "That money was for our future." "And who paid for it?" I asked quietly. Neither of them answered. I continued. "I worked for that money. I saved it. I skipped meals. I skipped rest. I put it there because I trusted you." Caleb stepped closer. You had no right. I looked him in the eyes. You had no right to throw water in my face. Ethan shouted, that was a joke. A joke does not remove respect, I said. A joke does not make a father feel small in his own house. Caleb clenched his fists. You can't do this, we'll report you. I nodded, you can try. They froze. Because deep down they knew the truth. I was the guardian, I had the right. Ethan dropped onto the couch and buried his face in his hands. What are we going to do now? Caleb paced the room. This is crazy, you've lost your mind. I watched them both. For the first time in years, they were scared. And that scared me too. Because fear can turn into anger very quickly. I said, I am leaving. Caleb stopped packing. Leaving where? Out, I said, away. Ethan looked up. For how long? I took a breath. For good. Silence again. Then Caleb laughed, but this time it sounded broken. You're bluffing. I walked past them into my room. I pulled out the small bag from under the bed. Passport. Clothes. Ticket. I came back and placed it on the table. Ethan's mouth opened. You bought a ticket. One way, I said. Caleb grabbed his hair. You can't abandon us. I looked at him carefully. You abandoned me first. Those words hit him hard. He sank into a chair. For a moment I saw something change in his eyes, fear mixed with regret. Dad, Ethan said softly, we didn't mean it like that. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But then Caleb spoke. So what now, he said, you take the money and run. That sentence closed my heart. I said I am not running, I am choosing myself. I walked to the door. Ethan stood up quickly, please don't go. Caleb said nothing. I paused at the door and turned back. This is the lesson, I said. Respect is not free, it is earned and protected. If you destroy it, you lose more than money. Then I opened the door and stepped outside. The sun was bright, the street was quiet. I walked to the bus stop. Behind me, the house stood still. But something else was moving. Something dangerous. Because inside that house, anger was growing. And Caleb was not the kind of person who accepted loss quietly. As the bus approached, my phone buzzed again. A message. Not from the bank. From a number I knew very well. And when I read the first line, my hands went cold. Because it meant my leaving had already caused a chain reaction I did not expect. And the next move would not be mine. The message on my phone was short. Too short. Dad, come back now. Something bad has happened. It was from Ethan. My heart jumped. I stopped walking. The bus slowed as it came closer, but I did not move. Something bad. Those words can mean many things. I called Ethan immediately. He answered on the first ring. His voice was shaking. Dad, Caleb is gone. Gone where? I asked. I don't know, he said quickly. He packed a bag, he was shouting. He said you ruined his life. He said he would fix this himself. My stomach felt empty. When did he leave? I asked. 10 minutes ago, Ethan said. Please come back. The bus stopped in front of me. The doors opened with a loud hiss. People stepped out, people stepped in. I stood there frozen. For 1 second, I almost turned back. Almost. Then I remembered water on my face. I remembered the words, you are nothing without us. I remembered years of silence. I said quietly, Ethan, I am already gone. What? He cried. I warned you, I said. I told you this was serious. Dad, please, Ethan begged. He's angry, he's not thinking straight. I closed my eyes. I am sorry, I said, but I cannot save everyone from their own choices. I ended the call. My hand was shaking as I stepped onto the bus. As it pulled away, I looked back at the street one last time. I did not know then that this would be the last time I saw that house. At the airport, everything felt unreal. People dragging bags, children crying, loudspeakers calling flights. I sat alone, holding my passport tightly. My phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. "Mr. Stone, this is the bank. Please contact us immediately regarding a serious issue." My chest tightened. Serious issue. I stood up and walked to a quiet corner. I called the number. A man answered. "Mr. Stone, there has been a report." "A report of what?" I asked. "An attempt to reverse large transfers," he said carefully, "and a claim of financial abuse." I knew immediately. "Caleb." "I did nothing illegal," I said. "I am the guardian. Everything was done properly." "Yes," the man said, "but your son claims you are fleeing the country." I looked at my boarding pass. "I am traveling," I said, "not fleeing." There was a pause. "Sir," the man said, "for now, the funds are temporarily frozen." Frozen. My heart dropped. "For how long?" I asked. "Until the matter is reviewed," he said. "You may also be contacted by authorities." The call ended. I sat down slowly. So this was Caleb's move. Not regret. Not apology. War. I thought about turning off my phone. But then another message came. This time from Ethan. "Dad, Caleb went to the police." My head spun. I felt tired, very tired. For years, I carried this family on my back. Now I was being dragged down by the same people. I leaned my head against the wall. Was I wrong? That question whispered inside me. Then another memory came. Caleb laughing. Water dripping down my face. My sons, eyes full of pride as they disrespected me. No. I stood up. I boarded the plane. As the plane rose into the sky, my phone lost signal. For the first time in a long while, there was silence. I did not know what waited for me on the other side. But I knew one thing. I would not return to being small. Hours later, I landed in a new country. New air, new sounds, new faces. I checked into a small hotel. That night I slept deeply. In the morning, my phone buzzed again. Signal was back. Messages flooded in. From Ethan. From unknown numbers. From one message marked urgent. I opened Ethan's first. "Dad, Caleb is in serious trouble." My heart skipped. "What kind of trouble?" I typed. The reply came fast. "He tried to confront the bank manager. He shouted. He broke things. The police were called." I closed my eyes. "What happened?" I asked. "He was arrested," Ethan replied. Arrested. I sat on the bed, stunned. Another message came, this one from an official number. "Mr. Daniel Stone, you are requested to return immediately in relation to an ongoing investigation involving your son." I stared at the message. "Return immediately." I laughed once. A dry laugh. After all these years when I needed respect, I got water. Now that I chose myself, they wanted me back. I walked to the window and looked out at the busy street below. Life was moving on. People were living. And I was standing between two choices. Go back and save Caleb. Or stay away and let him face the results of his actions. My phone rang again. This time it was a video call. From Ethan. I hesitated. Then I answered. Ethan's face filled the screen. His eyes were red. His voice was quiet. "Dad," he said, "they said Caleb could go to jail." I swallowed hard. Ethan continued, "They said only you can help him now." I felt the weight return to my chest, the same weight I had carried for years. Only you can help. I looked at Ethan and said slowly, and who helped me when I was drowning in my own house. Ethan started crying. I'm sorry, he said. I was wrong, we were wrong. Those words cut deeper than anger ever did. Sorry. Too late. Or just in time. I ended the call without answering. I stood there, holding the phone, knowing that whatever I chose next would change everything forever. Because the next step would either break my son, or break me all over again. I did not sleep that night. I sat on the edge of the bed in the small hotel room, holding my phone in my hands. Every few minutes it buzzed. Messages from Ethan, missed calls from unknown numbers, one long voice message I did not open. My mind kept going back and forth. If I go back, I lose my freedom. If I stay, I lose my son. I stood up and walked to the mirror. I looked at my face, older, tired, stronger than before, but also scarred. I asked myself a hard question. What kind of father do I want to be remembered as? Not the weak one, not the angry one, but the wise one. In the morning, I made my decision. I called Ethan. He answered quickly, like he had been waiting all night. Dad, he said. I am not coming back, I said calmly. There was silence. Then he whispered, so Caleb is finished. No, I said, he is learning. Ethan cried softly. They said he might go to court. I will speak to a lawyer from here, I said. I will tell the truth. I will not lie. I will not beg. I will not return. Ethan asked why. I took a deep breath. Because love does not mean allowing abuse, I said, and help does not mean removing consequences. Ethan was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I understand. That surprised me. I really do, he continued. I didn't before, but now I do. I felt something loosen in my chest. Over the next few weeks, things moved slowly. The bank reviewed everything. The truth came out. I had acted legally. The money was mine. The accounts were created by me. The transfers were clean. The funds were released. Caleb faced charges for his behavior at the bank, but because it was his first serious offense, he was given a choice. Counseling, community service, a warning that would follow him for life. He chose counseling. From what I heard, the counselor asked him one simple question. Why were you so angry at your father? Caleb could not answer. That silence became his punishment. Ethan started calling me every week. At first he just talked about school, about work, about how quiet the house felt. One day he said, Dad, I washed the dishes today. I thought of you. I smiled for the first time in a long while. Months passed. I found work in my new country. Simple work, honest work. I rented a small place. I cooked for myself. I slept peacefully. No shouting. No fear. One evening, a message came from Caleb. Not long. Just one sentence. I am sorry for what I did to you. I stared at the screen. Sorry. This time it felt real. I replied with one sentence too. I forgive you, but I will not return. There was no reply. And that was okay. Because forgiveness does not always bring people back together. Sometimes it just sets you free. Today I live quietly. I help others. I keep my distance, but I keep my heart open. I learned something important. Being a parent does not mean losing yourself. Respect must go both ways. And when someone throws water in your face, it may not be the water that hurts the most. It is the disrespect behind it. But if you choose yourself wisely, calmly, and with courage, you do not lose your family. You teach them a lesson they will never forget.